listening to the Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Decoys, the most technological advanced silhouette decoys on the market. And Vortex Canada, the force of optics.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Union 0430 episode 106, and we've got a gooder for you today. We've got Ronnie and Logan from Heartland Waterfowl coming in, as well as Bobby Hayes from Ducklander Calls. Bobby sort of kind of got this all together for us after me kind of doing what I do and tormenting them and asking them to do favors for me and stuff like that, which I have no way to repay them, but someday I promise, Bobby, I'll get you back. Light crew today, you can see Dave and just Dave and I from the Union crew. The rest of the boys are at work. Dave and I, not so much. And we've got the boys coming to us from, tell us where you're hailing from, fellas.
We're in right now just outside of Kansas City in Greenwood, Missouri. This is the Heartland Waterfowl Global HQ.
There you go. There you go. The world headquarters.
That's right.
Of Heartland Waterfowl. So I'm really stoked. We done a social media blast this morning just to say, hey, listen, we're doing this show with the Heartland guys. And it'll be available on Monday. That's the 1st of August, I believe. So this episode, we'll record it now. It'll go live on the 1st of August. So we're pretty excited, fellas. Like, you got to understand that Dave and I are still getting used to meeting some of the names that we're meeting here. Like Bobby, now you guys, and the whole hockey sock full of other names of people that we've had on the show and guests and great friends that we've made. So don't judge us if we're a little bit starstruck and we get jumped and we trip over our words a little bit. You know, we're pretty excited, to say the least.
I'm still trying to figure out how to use hockey sock. And
I know. Whenever I do these with them, it's like I'm watching Fargo.
Is it Fargo or is it Letterkenny?
Letterkenny.
Well,
that's what I was thinking of.
You could do both.
Yeah.
I always think of the sheriff in Fargo.
Fargo's Minnesota, right? No,
yeah,
North Dakota.
It sounds the same.
Yeah.
It's the same general sound.
North Dakota.
Yeah, North Dakota, right. Sorry. So fellas, I really wanted to jump right into this. So Logan, I watched that video of you guys up in Canada with that duck hunt that's on the channel there right now. And I really wanted to start it because you guys are in the Mississippi in the Central Flyway. Like, you guys aren't hurting for birds, or at least that's the perception that I get. And I'm just wondering, like, why are you guys making the trip up to Canada? I know you haven't done it in a couple of years, but why are you making that trip up to Canada to get at birds when you have so many down in your own? I love that you're coming to Canada, but
I mean, it's really the best. It really doesn't matter the province you go to. But I mean, you're getting the birds first, right?
Right.
It's the first thing they see after, good hatch, bad hatch, whatever it is. And honestly, we go up there and target snow geese. That's really what we're going up there for. And I mean, really, regardless of what you're going up there for, once again, it's the best. But in regards to the snow geese and what we're going up there for, it's the first time to chance to get the juvies. Honestly, they're just a lot more vulnerable. The people are great. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing that we notice versus hunting in the States. And in Canada, the people are awesome.
The birds are dumb.
yeah.
Are you both going to target snow geese?
Well, actually, Bobby's cracking a joke there because Logan is a big time snow goose hunter. He loves to hunt snow geese, and it's not my favorite. I would much rather set up and chase ducks every time. However, I don't mind chasing snow geese in Saskatchewan because it's just a lot different up there. And Logan hit on a lot of the points. Obviously, it's a lot easier to get on land, the permission. Farmers are awesome to work with, or the landowners. And, you get into those big 40 to 60,000 feeds of juvies, you know, and they haven't seen a whole lot of spreads and they haven't seen a whole lot of hunters yet. And so they're not as educated. So it's a lot more fun when by the time they get down here to us, they're a lot more educated and it's a lot more challenging to get on them. So not that ducks can't be, but snow geese is it's like Logan always says, high risk, high reward.
Yeah. I mean, especially in the fall too. And in Canada, you can use an e-collar and that's a big deal. We can't do that in the States in the fall.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, you know, we still hunt snow geese in the fall, but you know, you're running mouth calls and it's really hard to mimic all that sound. But, the hunting definitely changes on the snow goose too, from early September, we go up to the first week, October, typically. And then, you know, by the time they get to us, middle of November, they're a lot more congregated down here, bigger groups. It seems like there's no juvies to be found. And, the hunting really changes. It makes it a lot more difficult. They're roosting in different spots than they would up north. I mean, they just really change, what they're doing. And, you know, the further they come south, the harder it gets.
I'm just picturing these guys like hunting in Canada and then going back to the States and hunting where they are. And like the snow geese are harder because they've been us Canadians have screwed it up for them. They're just in the blind singing that Blame Canada song, right? Like from South Park.
From South Park,
So since we're in the middle of the country, right?
Yeah.
We could have snow geese for a month. And if you scout that, it could be a 20,000 bird feed, but there'll be no juvies on the edge of that feed.
Okay.
There's nothing to hunt if there's no juvies.
Yeah, they really start to get in pockets when they're coming down. Like you'll find a pocket of juvies or you'll find a pocket of adult birds and you'll know real quick, you know, by the way your hunt's going, you know, where you're at. And obviously you can pay attention to that while you're scouting and, you know, look for gray in the fields. And we do that and try to find a field that has good ratios of juvies. But, you know, some years are better than others and the hatch is, you know, good or bad. And it makes things difficult.
So a couple things I want to just on what you touched on there. So first off, when you're talking about comparing it to hunting stateside, like getting land permission and stuff like that, the pressure compared to where you are, the hunting pressure, and this is probably a pretty stupid friggin' question, but I'm gonna get it out there anyways. But comparing what you're used to with the number of people that's out trying to get the permissions compared to Saskatchewan or Alberta, I'm assuming it's not even close.
It depends. Like, so I would say the last time we were in Canada, 2-3 years ago, right before COVID, the year before COVID, Canada, Saskatchewan was super crowded.
Okay.
And that played a big role because the fuel prices were so cheap. It made it a lot easier for people to get up there. So like, getting away from people while we were up there 3 years ago was a very, very difficult thing. Now take that back 6-7 years ago when fuel prices were not quite as high as what they were. And there's not very many people around, from me noticing. The other thing that plays a role around where we're at is you guys have vast amount of farmland. Where we're hunting around here for the most part is, you know, there's, you know, a city here, a city there. And
Right.
it's not so much that there's more people out hunting on a regular basis, but there's always somebody that's looking at those birds, or there's always
Right.
somebody that's looking at those birds consistently throughout the week. And it might be a group of, you know, 20 different groups of hunters, but they're all looking at the same birds that they might only hunt one time that week, you know, versus when people are up in Canada, they're hunting every single day. There's trucks
They're on
driving around
vacation
all the time. So it's you know, a little bit different. You know, and you guys just have so many birds, like they're just so congregated together, versus when they get down here, they're spread out all over the place. And I mean, it's just a different animal, really.
Plus, you got Heartland Waterfowl on TV showing how easy it is. Go to Saskatchewan. And, you know, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not going to take the credit.
You know what? Like that, but that's a good point because, and this is something I wanted to get into later on. But when watching your guys' videos, so I really like the fact of the amount of importance you guys put on scouting, and then if you look at that Canada hunt, like Logan, you guys said, we didn't even bring waders. We got no waders. We've got no floaters. If people think it's easy just by watching a video, well, then really pay attention to what's going on here, because you guys have been coming to Canada, you've been doing the hunts, and you just, I guess I'll use the term tunnel vision. You've this is what worked. This is what we're going to do. And then you get up to Canada and you're like, oh man, I wish we had some floaters, wish we had some waders. And thank goodness you had a dog in order to pick up those birds for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we're typically not hunting water in Canada unless it's maybe the spring and there's a bunch of sheet water or something. But so yeah, we don't bring any floaters. But yeah, we may do. It's one of those things that, you know, we found that spot and it's like, you can't pass up this opportunity. You know, you have to figure out a way to make it work. But yeah, I mean, back to your scouting. The scouting is the number one important thing that we do. We pride ourselves in that, and to be successful, you have to do that. That's the number one important thing, is to be where the birds want to be. And if you do that, all the other things fall in place, with the second most important thing being to hide yourself. If you are where the birds you want to be and you hide yourself, for the most part, you're going to have a pretty successful hunt. I mean, obviously there's a lot more elements that go into that other than that, but for us, those are the two major variables, especially when we have cameras involved, is we got to be able to hide ourselves. And obviously we are trying to finish birds at 20 yards versus maybe the guy down the road from us that's, you know, doesn't care if he's taking that 40-yard passing shot. You know, we have to have feet down trying to get them on camera. So, you know, being right where they want to be and hiding ourselves, hiding our cameras, those are the two most important things for us.
I know Bobby, we've asked Bobby this question on the show before, and it was Dave that asked him the question, but we've asked Bobby in the past, like, what would you tell someone to buy first if they were getting into duck hunting? And Bobby's like, buy a set of binos before you buy a duck call. Right. And that is so true. Like, how many fellas or ladies or whoever, how many people go out and they're like, well, I need this and I need this and I need this, but forget on optics.
Yeah, I would say that even when I got into waterfowl hunting, it was a situation where a guy had leased a pit blind up in northern Missouri, and basically they had their flooded corn, and it's basically they just show up and then they hunt. Like, that's their spot that they hunt every single time. So I wasn't really, even though I was introduced to it in a lot of great ways, the one thing that was missing from that was the scouting element. And until I started really hunting with Logan a lot, that I realized the importance of that. So it's a really good point. Like, if you really want to be the hardcore, you know, and, you know, set yourself up for success every single time you go, then focus on the, you know, learn as much as you can about the scouting element before you learn about how to blow a duck call. Because I mean, I think even Bobby will tell you, like, if you are on the X, then the calling, I mean, you can turn birds if weather conditions aren't great and you got to work a little bit harder, but it's just more confidence in getting those birds to be there. I mean, but if you're on the X, then you're set, you're positioned pretty well to be successful. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
Hit them on the corners, right, Bobby?
That's right. The other thing scouting does, scouting teaches you about the bird itself.
Yeah.
So the more knowledge you have about it, the more respect you give it, it just makes everything better.
Oh, for sure. And we'll sit there and we'll be like, how was your scout that evening? And we'll, you know, have 3 or 4 trucks come back like, I don't know about mine. I don't. All right, we're not hunting in the morning. We're scouting. And it sucks. It's a shitty thing. Everyone wants to go out and hunt, but like, we're to the point to where, you know, we have a goal of producing an episode on this trip, and we have to make sure that we put forth the best hunt we possibly can. And if it doesn't look like it's going to work out for us, or there's some iffy, maybe there's no wind that day and, you know, the birds didn't show up or they're bouncing around, hey, let's just take a step back, spend the next morning to scout. Maybe we can do an afternoon hunt, or maybe we just scout all day the next day so we can have a better hunt the following day.
Yeah, that's the life of a TV producer, because it comes down to, what's your time worth? You know, we could go out there, and if we were just hunting for the sake of hunting, then maybe if it was a mediocre or less than mediocre scout, then we could go out there and probably pick on a few. But for us, what's our time worth? And it's not worth our time to go out there and potentially fail when we could give it another morning scout and potentially hunt the next day or later that afternoon.
And I think that so I had, after our episode with Bobby, I had a guy locally to me come up and say, like, dude, why do you put so much emphasis on binoculars? Like, I just kind of go, and when I see them in the air, I just drive and I find the field that they're in, and that's good enough. And I said, man, there's more to scouting than just finding the field they're in. Like, look where they are in that field. Have you ever set up in the field and they just, I'm not landing in where you are, they land somewhere else, right? Like, get those binoculars, man. Yeah, that's, I just want to make sure that was pointed out so that my buddy locally, when he's listening, can hear that.
Well, I need to know if there's a hide. I need to know what species I'm shooting. I need to know if it's a big goose or a little goose, which can be hard to tell from 1,000 yards. There's a lot you need to know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're not just looking at the birds while you're scouting. It's like, all right, how are you getting into the field in the morning? That's something that everybody misses, is how are we getting into in the morning? Where's the field entrance? You know, and then, hey, where are you going to hide in the field according to where the birds are landing?
Yes.
Are these birds coming in big groups, small groups, first thing in the morning? Are they flying out first thing in the morning? Are they sitting until 10 a.m.? What are they doing?
Is the hide better where the birds are not, but we can put them there?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's
can you cut?
Can you pull them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of us eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
And sometimes you can pull them, and many times you can't, but sometimes you can. And so those birds know where they want to be. And then you're setting up because you have to be in this particular location because the hide's better, but they still want to be in that one particular spot. So they shortstop you at 80 yards or 100 yards, whatever it is. So if you don't have the binos, then it's hard to evaluate what you need to do to position yourself for success.
Well, like the other thing, like I don't know what they do up there, but where I'm at, we should have big geese and little geese. Well, if they're mixed and you're 1,000 little geese and 50 big geese, it might not be a hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may be one set of little geese.
Yeah. And
there's nothing there.
Yeah. In your area, for sure, you have 100, 150 big geese. You got to hunt.
Yeah, that's a hunt.
You got a good hunt.
Yeah.
Especially, you're running smaller groups, 3, 4 guys. That's perfect.
That's a good hunt.
And honestly, some people overlook some of that stuff. Yeah. Like, it's not always the number of birds that it's going to the field while you're scouting. It's everything involved with the scouting, just like I said, with him, 100, 150 birds for 3 or 4 guys, coming to a little cattle pond.
And that's at least 5 bunches of birds that you're going to finish.
You saw them go in there that morning before. You're like, hey, they came in 10 groups. We're going to get 10 goes at this.
Yes.
And and you can sit there and count them all morning long.
Well, you especially know it if you can see that there's a hide.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, we don't have to worry about as much stuff up here because we don't have the Canadians already shooting at birds and screwing it up for you Americans like you guys do.
And the only other thing I'll add to that too is that when you're actually sitting there watching the birds, I like to, when I'm scouting and I'm sitting there and I know that they're coming to this particular watershed or field, is I want to look off in the distance. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from one roost? Are they coming from a couple different roosts? Are they, so that when we're set up in the field, are they going to be coming from behind us? Are they going to be coming from 3 different locations? And sometimes you don't know that because as you're watching the field and you're only watching what's right there in front of you, you're not paying attention to what direction they're coming from. All of a sudden they just appear. So I think that's another key element, is knowing where they're coming from.
Oh, no, that's super relevant, because if it's 2 roosts or 3 roosts that they're coming to it, that's a different spread.
Yep.
Than 1 roost in 1 line.
Boys, my video's crapping out here. So after there's a lull, please take over because I don't know what's going on. I did want to talk about, because I want to put this in here when you were saying, the people in Canada are so nice. Well, listen, don't sell Missouri so short either. I was in Fort Leonard Wood, so I'm ex-military, retired after 20 years. Was in Fort Leonard Wood for about 6 months back a few years ago, and looked at this guy at the engineer school that I was at, and listen.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, see, I can't continue with his story. I don't know where he's going with that. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
I think he was trying to tell us how great the Missouri residents are.
I got a question. You're talking about your buddy, with the binoculars and everything. And do you feel like Canadians might be a little bit behind the times a little bit when it comes to the waterfowl hunting? Like, do you guys feel like you're always learning from people in the States, so to speak?
I think I do feel that we're behind. And in 2 manners, like, one is we wait for the shows to come out to see what's going on and what new products are coming out. But number 2 on that is like actually getting a lot of products and stuff is hard. So for example, right now I'm I'm in the midst of thinking about switching to a 28 gauge just with my clavicle, right? And I'm looking at all these guns and stuff. Well, the stuff that available down in the States versus what's available up here, we're about a year or two behind being able to get it. And it, like, even the ammo, right? Like it's just different. But
Thanks, Trudeau.
yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. But
I wasn't bringing him up.
but yeah, the other thing is that, like, I don't, how to put it properly. I don't think that, because like we talked about it, like the pressures that you guys have, the birds being pressured all the way down until they get to you, we don't really have that up here. So we don't have to use a lot of the tactics that you guys come up with and use, right? Like, I watch a lot of the stuff that Bobby puts out on the Instagram and those little short, quick training videos that he does, and it's just like, man, a lot of some of this stuff we've never thought about because they're not that pressured, right? So it's kind of a,
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong too, but your birds are typically always on the move. Like, I mean, you have consistent roosts every year, but like, I feel like the birds bounce around and they're wanting to obviously move south, and obviously they stay put for a time period, and maybe later on in the year, some of those tactics would come more into play for you guys, versus early in the year, when you kind of get that group of birds that's, is going to hang around for a while, and maybe get a little more pressure than, say, the birds in the early season that are, trying to just make their way south. But
yeah.
I mean,
I found, especially in my area, so we got a 1 week rifle season for deer, and that's kind of the break point of, like, guys will hunt waterfowl up until deer season, and then they'll try and get their deer tag with rifle, and if they don't get it with rifle, they're out with the bow. Crossbows up here, everyone can use a crossbow, right? So then that kind of, it doubly takes the pressure off all the birds. So yeah, they're on the move, but we don't really see them not on the move. Last year was a rough year with the birds, especially.
Different.
Yeah.
That'd be like going from us to the Dakotas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're always, it seems like they're always wanting to, hop south, and like, you have to wait. I wait until, like, for us around here, my opinion would be like December, right?
Yep.
Like,
so
prime around here.
So I've never asked Ronnie or Logan about this, but I could probably give you the answer. So Kansas, Oklahoma, and then Missouri, Arkansas, we're now both wintering states for waterfowl. So hunting wintering birds is completely different than hunting migrating birds in the Dakotas. Totally different hunt. Yeah, but I bet you view that same way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just the North Dakota is about as similar as you can get to Canada.
Right.
With the terrain, the big open fields. Yeah, the birds are always on the move. But yeah, I mean, as far as wintering birds, like December prime time, like, what I feel like you would be able to use those tactics that you were talking about watching Bobby do is your late season, the birds that are, just sticking around, get on the river, getting it out. They've been there for a while. That's the stuff that he's referring to. Am I right?
Yeah. Like, I am not trafficking big honkers in Kansas in December or January. There's no point.
If there's snow on the ground, we got a different story.
Yeah,
but
but
that doesn't happen much.
If they're in there,
or it's really, really cold and you've, got
Yes.
an ice ripper out there and opened up some water.
yes, but just day in and day out, they're on these, I call them a soft decks. They feed in 4 fields throughout that same day. Good luck.
Yep.
Sorry, guys, not trying to be rude, just trying to get figured out with Damien.
Yeah,
No worries.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try and get him back on, but
And I'm going to ask the question because I don't know, but it feels like when we go up to Canada and we're, bouncing around from one landowner to another, it almost seems like a majority of the time that they're getting hit up for someone wanting to hunt their land. It's somebody from the States as opposed to somebody locally, which would allow me to think that maybe waterfowl hunting isn't just as popular as, deer hunting, moose hunting, some of the big game hunting that they have up there in Saskatchewan. Now, I've never hunted outside of Saskatchewan. I've never done Manitoba or any other province, but it just from an outsider, I guess, it seems that, a majority of the waterfowl hunting that happens in Canada happens from people that come from the States. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
How many hunters are in Canada that hunt waterfowl? I have no idea.
That's the real question, because they say that, like, only 10% of the hunters in Canada are from the States. I think of the license sold, but that, I
Is
mean,
that
that's
right?
going to go,
I don't know.
but that's, you got to think about that. That's for everything.
That's a
You
big
know,
area
as
too.
far as waterfowl, I feel like when I see them, like Canadians out hunting, it's like, and talk to them, they're always just like, you know, we kind of just get burnt out with it. You know, hey, we shot it. We shot enough. We're good, you know, type thing. It's not really a obsession, I guess. It's definitely not something that they would travel to go on a trip to hunt for the most part. You know, it's just a local, hey, I got a little bit of time between harvests. This looks like fun. There's been a lot of geese in this field, or there's been a lot of birds on this slough, or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, we don't run into a lot of Canadian hunters while we're up there.
But, you know, really traveling to duck hunt for the States guys for us is a newer 15. When I started making calls, there was nobody taking 10 people to Canada.
Yeah.
You might have a couple guys that would go up at, or maybe a 3
Like a group of 4 usually.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you are not taking the trailer up and the rig and doing all that. That's a newer thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Damien.
He's froze again, maybe.
Somewhat.
You are going to have to buy a Tesla, and maybe Elon will up your satellite.
I don't even got audio from you.
You're muted, Dud.
I think you're muted.
Like, who brought the new guy onto the show here? Like, holy smokes, fellas. Just yeah, go for it, Dave.
No, it's exactly what you're saying. I find up here, especially, like, God, I hope a lot of people don't hear this, but like they kind of hunt waterfowl for September, October until the rut in November for deer. And then they kind of switch right to deer. And it's like, man, that's when the waterfowl hunting's getting good.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Keep doing that, boys, because it's yeah. So
Well, I would say even here, like the amount of guys actually hunting decreases a lot after Thanksgiving.
When it gets cold.
Yeah. Like that first week of December, when we normally get ice you can walk on, it drops off a lot.
Yep. When it gets cold, you know, Missouri, we have that 2-week deer season, so it's a really good time to hunt too. But
It's also harder to get on land.
yeah.
That cold, I kind of call that like the people that waterfowl hunt as a hobby are the ones that stay out and then they're done when it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guys that are obsessed are the ones that are still out there, like icicles off their nose, because, you know, like those are the obsessed ones, right? So that's how I look at it. Yeah.
How many acres does the average farmer own up there?
So where I'm located, it's like a farm is 100 acres, right? But like some guys have
how many does a row crop guy own up there? Like, what does it take to run his farm?
Like in Saskatchewan?
Sure, I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah, thousands.
That's what I thought.
In
Yeah,
the farmers that we're talking to are,
what do they own?
10 to 30,000,
Yeah.
and they might only own half of that and lease the other half. A lot of them
Is it contingent?
No.
But
I mean, seen fields that are 1,500, 2,000 acres,
right?
One field.
You know, so these guys know where I hunt mostly. I think the largest rancher we have down there owns 1,500 in contingent that touches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you may have some guy you hunt on that owns 3, but it could be in 3 counties.
You also got to realize though, you're in where you hunt and where we like to hunt a lot is kind of different than anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
With the way that the rolling hills,
right,
and the small cattle ponds, like it's a completely different style of hunting. Those guys would just be like, what are we doing here?
Right.
And it's a different way of scouting. And I think that kind of is where Bobby and I and Ronnie can all relate when the scouting stuff is, because we've scouted a lot of the same stuff, and it's a more difficult. Here it is kind of the same way. When you get the rolling hills, you can lose birds really easily. They can tuck behind the trees. There's a ton of trees. So like, you know, getting to high points, and, you know, sometimes it takes a few days to actually figure out what's going on.
Oh yeah, you have to know what you're doing,
because you're going to lose them, or you're going down a road trying to follow them, and then the road just stops. Whereas up there, you know, you guys got mile grids for the most part. You know, you're going to make it through. We don't have that where we're
Now, do you guys have it where, around me anyway, there's a lot of people will own a 100-acre farm, but they'll rent all the acreage out to a guy that's, you know, working the land, and he's got a ton of that land that he's working.
Yeah.
That's what we deal with a lot around here, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's where it becomes difficult, because you can see the guy out doing the work and you know who it is, and then you can talk to him about, okay, well, who owns this? So
Well, essentially what I was asking is, so if you're up there and you get permission, you've got permission on a big swath of area.
Oh yeah.
Where when we get permission, it is maybe on that.
Mhm.
And that's it. Yeah.
So to go along with that, that's one thing that has really changed in Canada since we started going, 10 years ago. So when we first went up there, and like you said, there wasn't as many people as say today, or when fuel prices were, really good. But yeah, one farmer might have 20,000 back in the day. He'd be like, yeah, no problem. Hunt it all week. Don't bother me anymore.
Right.
Now there's been so much competition. People have getting pissed off, and they're trying to keep the peace. Like I believe some of these towns even have meetings before the season starts
Really?
to get the farmers together to say, hey, let's all just make a pact that if you're given permission, you're given permission for the next day.
Right.
You're not given permission for the whole week, or you're not just saying, go ahead, do whatever you want, because then, you're not going to have the arguments. People aren't going to be pissed off. You're not going to have people, going to the same field. And I would say that has changed tremendously over the last 10 years of farmers now saying, hey, if you want to hunt it tomorrow, that's fine, but you need to let me know if you're going to hunt it again. So I make sure somebody else isn't in there, because I'm doing first come, first serve.
Right.
And we've been beating the fields. I can't tell you how many times, the last couple of times we've been up there where they're like, sorry, I just gave permission for tomorrow, but if you would like to hunt it the next day, you're fine. And it's like, no, that's no big deal. If I want to, I'll come back and ask you.
Yeah, they don't understand. You have to look at this again.
Whereas, 6-7 years ago, I remember farmers would be like, yeah, do what you want on everything. Don't bother me anymore. You talk to me, you're good.
Right.
But I will say this, that we get the plot maps when we go up there, so we kind of have an idea of who owns what. And if I see that this guy has, quite a bit of field or quite a bit of acreage, and there's a potential based on where the water is and where the roost might be. Yeah, I'm asking every single time, hey, we're going to be here. I don't know if we can necessarily hunt it tomorrow, but we might want to hunt it sometime this week. We want to look at it a few more times. Is there any way I can lock this down for the next 4 or 5 days? It's not as easy to get that permission, but you don't know if you don't ask. And I ask every time.
And now, part of that is from knowing these farmers for a while now too. Like, I mean, we have cell phone numbers of farmers that we've hunted on for years, and
that's right.
We treat them right too. They take care of us, we'll, donate a dinner to them, or, whatever the case.
Bring them a case of beer.
Yeah. A lot of them like to drink beer while they're on their combine.
What Canadian doesn't like to drink beer?
So what I was curious about, so this is kind of a good tidbit of scouting information. So I don't know what they do in Canada on row crop, but like here, if the guy is a full-time row cropper, he has to farm 1,500 acres ish to make enough money to feed the family. So if you're talking to him and you get permission, he has other ground. Yeah. So I don't know what they need up there. So see what I mean?
They have a ton.
Right.
I mean a ton. And most of the time, the person you're talking to is a hired hand on a tractor. They're not even the ones, doing the work out in the field. Because when we're up there, it's always harvest. They're always out in the field doing something, and it feels like you're trying to pull them off a tractor. Whereas down here, you pull a farmer off.
Oh no, that's a big no go.
It could be bad.
Yeah, that's a no go.
Up there, hey, how you doing? Glad to see you. Come on in for dinner.
Right. Completely different mentality.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Damien's just messaged me. They just lost power at his place. There's a big storm rolling through. So you guys keep talking to make this easy on me. All right.
That's all right.
The show must go on.
Yeah. So when you guys come up to Canada, do you guys it doesn't sound like you, oh, he just got power back. It doesn't sound like you guys have to get a guide service, do you? Or a resident? No.
So we like doing things on our own, honestly.
On your own. Yeah. Yep. So I don't know if you've seen it, but the regs have changed now, and you guys aren't allowed to bring the meat back into America. Do you think that that's going to change the amount of Americans coming up and doing that?
I bet there's more.
Yeah.
I guess I don't understand the purpose of this and why they implemented this. I mean, the birds just flying south, right?
Yeah. And I think it's something to do with the avian flu.
It's not like they're hitting a big wall and turning around, right?
Yeah.
You're right. You cross that line and now we're different.
Yeah.
Have to use the ArriveCan app to come back. And so
the first time this avian thing happened, I think they did the same thing. I think this has happened before.
We were talking about this.
Yeah.
This kind of flu thing started happening. It was 10, 12 years
Yeah,
ago.
it was a while ago, so I'm having a hard time remembering. But they put the big thing out about cleaning them with rubber gloves on and cooking them thoroughly. And
Yeah, and that obviously just makes me weary. You
Mhm.
know, when you're having to put rubber gloves on to potentially eat something, that just seems kind of weird to me. But
By the way, I have a business that sells PPE, nitro gloves. And so if you are looking to get those, reach out to me. Anyway, I'm joking. Go ahead.
I don't think this stuff transfers those, so I don't know. I never worried about it.
I will
think
say
they're
this,
wet.
that when it is ridiculous the amount of times we've been back behind a hotel or wherever it is that we're staying, and somebody will be driving by or walking through, and they're like, well, you guys really got after them today. What are you going to do with all those? And we're like, would you like some? And we're like, we'll take them all. You know, so we've never had any problem with
Right.
donating any of the birds to the locals if they want them or if they ask for it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we talked about a couple episodes ago, is like, wouldn't it be great if they kind of relaxed some stuff so that we could actually donate the meat to like food banks up here and
You
and
guys
stuff like
can't do
that? We got a message from one of the health inspector, food inspector kind of guys saying that that's something that they're looking at doing and it's coming back. But no, we don't
Wow.
do that up here.
we used to donate some a long time ago. This is 10 years ago, to the Hutterite colonies. And then I believe one of them actually got caught like mixing in goose meat with their to make their bologna. They were mixing
Oh,
like
no.
25%.
Oh no.
And the feds caught them doing that because they're selling it, obviously.
Right.
So obviously, but they didn't want you to clean them. They wanted you to bring them because they wanted to use the feathers, and they wanted to use, the wings, all sorts of different stuff for what they're using for.
I had this guy from Laos or something, and he would not take them cleaned. He wanted the whole bird.
Yeah.
And if they were fresh, he would use the blood, all kinds of stuff.
It
Wow.
wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me if the
They
Hutterite
made
colonies were
some
doing
kind
that
of
too.
soup.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've seen more and more fishermen asking me for like, oh, that's a nice mallard there. Can I get some of the feathers off of it for tying their own flies? And then I looked up, there was a video on like how to get the right amount of feathers off of your bird for fly fishing. And surprisingly, there's a lot of feathers used in fly tying. I was quite pleased to see it. So I don't know enough fishermen to give that many birds away to, but yeah. So
I would say this is probably the year to go to Canada with the fuel prices.
last year with COVID, I heard it was dead. This year, same people that still aren't going, and fuel prices are even higher. So I mean, you can't.
It'll be empty.
Yeah,
that was going to be my next question, is like, with these fuel prices, are you guys still planning to come up this year? Or?
Nope.
It's the fuel prices, I think, are gonna stop people. I know a few guys are not guiding this year just because they don't think they're going to get the clients. So that's a lot of the guides around here they rely on Americans coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep, for sure. I mean, a lot of the towns do. I mean,
Yep.
The amount of money that the guys from the States bring in for 2 months out of the year. I mean, just even at the local restaurants or bars, hotels, everything. There's just a lot of money coming into the community and a lot of tax money, and it helps everybody out.
Your government doesn't seem to care about that much.
Next question. No,
our reason for coming up, and we talked about this a little bit off the air before we started recording the podcast, but our reason for coming up has nothing to do with the fuel prices.
No. That I guess I meant that more as an open, like, do you think? Yeah, but I do think that the fuel prices are going to change, and I think it's going to change the amount of people out scouting. Like 2-3 years ago, we saw a big influx of new young hunters, like 17, 18, 19-year-olds just getting in, and the group of them getting together, and they're starting out with a basic starter pack of getting decoys and stuff together. And it was great to see, but I'm kind of wondering, like, man, are they going to be wanting to put all those hours into the road scouting for birds? That's fuel prices are high, right? Like, in
theory, the scouting should be easier now. You got less pressure and less people out there driving around. So it should be in theory easier to find the birds to where you're not spending as much money in fuel, but you still got to do it.
Yeah.
It will not be the year to buy decoys.
No. And that's something that we've seen too, is that the prices, especially by the time they come up here and the border gets their little cut, right? a lot of these prices have gone up pretty big. Damien might know better. I think he got a little talk about how much they've gone up or how much they're going up in this area, but there's going to be some sticker shock when those prices start actually coming up, right?
It's close to double here.
Yeah, and that's it. Kind of July and August is when the prices start showing up, because a lot of these guys aren't having this stuff in stock all year long. They're July, it shows up, and then they show what it's worth now. It's like, Damien, you're still muted, Damien, but did you talk to Pat about what they were seeing?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing right now, and not going to throw out the names of any brands, but I bet you if you're looking for an outfitter pack of full body Canadas, you're going to be paying close to $1,000 for them up here in Canada.
Yeah, they're about 8 here right now.
Yeah,
that's like $2 American though, boys. So don't worry.
Yeah, it looks like your average ducks are going to be 2 to 220 a dozen this year.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is going to stop people from.
I said average. The average duck decoy has gone up so much from 15 years ago. So if you take something like a Dakota and Avian, whatever, but they look like they're about,
you're going to see
110 a 6-pack.
You'd be better off going onto Facebook Marketplace and seeing those who are ready to say, "I'm done hanging it up."
Well, and it could be the demise of the full body. Everybody goes to running flats.
Could be.
That's true.
I mean, it's so cheap to make a corrugated cardboard or whatever that material is.
I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see the outfitters and the big players. I think they'll still go running the full bodies, but for a 21-year-old kid that's looking to get into this, there's no way. There's no way that they can out with everything else. Now, you look at the pressure, and I'll say pressure, but it's not real pressure. But if you look at the clothing companies that are out there now, the gear, all of this stuff, like they're just, an 18-year-old kid is led to believe, I need to wear all of this. I need to have all of this gear. I need to have these decoys in order to be successful. And an 18-year-old kid is not going to be able to afford to get into waterfowling the way that it's perceived. And that's my opinion.
He better cut a lot of barley.
Yeah. I don't know if we brought this up, and I don't know where we are because my internet's all screwed up, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the show. And the question it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal work. The cinematography is amazing. And that's what I really, really like, the cinematography that's going on and the angles and stuff. But you guys sort of alluded to it at the beginning of this show, where you'll take a day off if it means finding the right roost or the right field, whatever it is. Do you guys feel stress on producing a great episode? And I get it, not every episode is going to be a banger, but is there a pile of stress that comes with producing a show?
I'll start off and then I'll let Logan kind of go from there. But I would say, yes, there's always stress, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's a waterfowl hunting show. People are tuning in to watch us, harvest birds. I don't think it's as much stress today as it was in the beginning, for a couple different reasons. One of which, in the beginning, you knew what you knew, right? And the mindset for us was like, we're in the very beginning. If for us to make a bang, we're going to have to show stellar hunts every single time. But in the course of the last 9 years, and we're getting ready to produce season 10, is, the people who really, the hardcore people who love Heartland Waterfowl are those who love the storyline that then show the honest, authentic experience that, hey, when we shoot and we miss, as much as we really hate watching that in a rough cut before we release it to the network, we put it on there because it's real. And we can't control the migration, in the last couple of years, at least in our area, the migration has been behind a little bit by a couple months or a month or so. I remember this last year, we had a really successful season 9, but we had to work twice as hard to find those pockets of where the birds were at, and so by telling a true, authentic experience, we have found that it doesn't really matter. You still have to kill birds, but the people who really enjoy the show are those who enjoy the authenticity as opposed to the amount of the amount of birds that we put in a pile. How would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, you hit that right on the head. I agree 100%. 100%. The other thing I would say is that, like, for me, when we started the show, is like my focal point was, hey, we got to go out there and shoot the birds right in everybody's face. We want to show us harvesting as many as we can, get the best kill shots we can. Whereas the flip side is that we were always worried about, do we have enough footage on the cinematography side? Do we have enough time lapses? Do we have enough scouting footage?
What we call is B-roll.
The B-roll stuff. And that's really what makes the show, right? And kind of for what when it clicked for me was like, I don't know, season 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there. We were in Colorado and we were there for a week and we shot like 16 birds, just a bunch of unlucky scenarios. And the episode turned out
incredible.
Phenomenal. It was awesome. Great episode. And it was like, all right, you don't need to shoot 100 birds on camera for us to make a good episode.
In fact, we won a Golden Moose Award, one of these right here.
Golden Moose.
A Golden Moose Award. Yeah.
Is that a Canadian thing?
We may have ripped it. They may have ripped it off from Canada, but anyway, that episode that Logan is talking about, we won a Golden Moose for best wing shooting TV show from that episode. And we only shot like 16, 20 birds in that entire trip.
So over the course, you guys have been going on for 9 or 10 years, right?
Yep.
Have you found that you've had to change some of like how you present your story over those 10 years? Like things have changed, especially in the last couple of years with like, YouTube videos are getting shorter. TikToks are only like, they were a minute. Now they're like 3 or 4, but people are starting to want to see just like quick snippets. Are you guys finding you had to change anything based on that?
We haven't changed anything. I don't think. I mean, there's always change. I shouldn't say that we haven't changed anything. I mean, we've continued to try to challenge ourselves to evolve with the cinematography, whether it's new equipment or different ways in which we're shooting or capturing the content. And so we're always challenging ourselves to be more creative on that end. I think what you're talking about though is on the distribution side. And so we have challenged ourselves to be more aggressive with the YouTube distribution and other digital distribution, whether it's social platforms. We're already at a disadvantage because we are hunters showing guns and ammo and, killing. And so a lot of the Silicon Valley companies that own these platforms are anti that, right? So we're already at a disadvantage there. So, we were also at a disadvantage at the very beginning on the YouTube stuff because the network of which we're, buying the airtime from would strong arm us and what we could do outside of what we were doing with them. And so they had come out with their own digital app that was, distributing content. And so they wanted to really strong arm us on how much content we could put out outside of what we were doing contractually with them. I think that as they were starting to lose producers and seeing that this digital animal is pretty big, that they were going to have to figure out a way to play nicer in the sandbox. And so they've given us a lot more freedom now, not only to put episodic content for what we're filming for them on our YouTube channel, but also given us the ability to create original content that we are putting on our YouTube channel. So yeah, there's always changes and things that are going to come up, and that's digital world that we live in is always evolving and changing. It seems like the minute you get it figured out, then they've changed it and they've taken it in a whole nother direction.
Yeah. To go along with that, one of the biggest things that we've done is last year we started to film our episodes on YouTube and then literally release it that day. So what we're hunting that morning got released that night. So it's literally real time when we're on our trips. Dakota and Q come on the trips and do all that for us. But we've challenged ourselves for that because there's nobody else really doing that. Right. Literally we're filming it that morning and it's coming out that night. So you're seeing exactly what happened that morning when we were out in the field. And to me, that's the biggest change. And that's fun. It's a lot of fun. And I think our viewers have really, really liked that. As far as like going on different trips and, people want to see, us shoot sea ducks or go and do something different. We try to, for, as much as we can, but in reality, like we're in the heartland, obviously from Canada all the way down right here in the Mississippi Central Flyway, it doesn't get much better. So it's like, you know, why would I not go to Kansas? It's one of the best places to hunt in the country. Why wouldn't I go to North Dakota?
You had asked that question earlier. Why do we come to Canada when we have a great flyway right here? And but we also like showing because everybody who watches Heartland Waterfowl doesn't necessarily live in the Heartland.
That's
they
right.
may live in Pennsylvania. We were on Sportsman Canada, so there are, I wanted to ask you that. Are you getting our content from YouTube, or do you watch us on the Sportsman's channel in Canada?
I get it from YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you get Sportsman's channel Canada up there?
I don't subscribe to it because I get it from YouTube.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough. No, I mean, that's fine. I'm just wanted to let everybody know that we also, even though we're on Sportsman Channel in the States, there's also a network in Canada called Sportsman Channel. Yeah. And so we do air our new episodes on that network as well.
Tell them about YouTube, Ronnie. Like, if they don't know you have a show on YouTube, because it's a fantastic, it's super high quality.
Well, I appreciate that. So Logan already hit on it. One of the things that we really wanted to do was make sure that because it all comes back to the sponsors, right? If we don't have sponsors and if they're not paying us money, then we don't have the luxury of being able to travel across the country to show the versatility of all the different hunts in different parts of the States and, even beyond in Canada. So you got to have that financial support. Well, in order to get the financial support, you got to show the value. Well, the value's got to now today, as opposed to what it was 10 years ago, you can't just be a TV show. So you got to be able to show value outside of that with your digital distribution. So that is where we challenged ourselves to create content and original series for YouTube. Now we're about to have a meeting next week where we're going to continue to change this. I guess you used the word change. It's going to change. It's going to evolve in ways that we can play nicer in the sandbox with YouTube, because in order to be successful on YouTube, you got to kind of play the YouTube game, unfortunately. And as much as we would like to show a polished production of everything that we did that morning and release it that night, so like, let's hypothetically say we're in North Dakota. We've been promoting on our social channels, like, hey, we're going to be up in North Dakota. What we did today, you're going to see tonight or tomorrow morning. Well, the guys in Missouri might be hunting and sitting in the blind, the birds aren't flying, and they're sitting there going, man, the birds aren't here yet, but I saw on Instagram, Heartland Waterfowls in North Dakota. I wonder what the birds are like up there. I wonder if they've come down, if they're getting into them. Well, they can literally then go to our YouTube channel right there on their phone, pull it up, and they can see how well we performed or what our success rate was, from that day or the day before.
It's funny that you bring that up, because I mentioned this to Bobby like 2 days ago. We were chatting and I was like, man, I loved her video. It was nice and short. Wasn't dragged out too long and stuff. And he was like, and Bobby said to me, he was like, that was shot in the morning. There's a guy in the truck as they're driving, editing this, and it goes out that night. And I'm like, no. And he was like, yeah, 100%. That's what's happening.
Those edits for that little bit of, I don't know if he does it.
He doesn't do it in the truck. He does it when we get back to the lodge or wherever we're staying, the hotel, whatever it might be. But that was the approach we wanted to take, because as we understood, no one else in the industry was doing that.
Nope.
And trust me, you don't become successful doing anything if it's easy. Otherwise, everybody would do it, right? So we knew it was going to be a challenge. And when we started off doing it, we were still trying to navigate and figure it out. And I told all the sponsors, I said, look, this is a very aggressive approach that we're going to take, but have some grace with us, in the beginning, because it's going to take some time to kind of have us figure it out. And that being said, Dakota was staying up until sometimes 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, editing these videos, releasing it. Then he's trying to get an hour or two of sleep before he's got to get back up and then go back out in the field with us the next day. So it was a grind. But as we got, halfway through the season, he kind of figured out, okay, this is what works. This is what doesn't work. And we were able to get those videos turned around and released by, 10, 11 o'clock Central Time. So then he could get a good night's sleep, and then he's able to perform better because he's got a good night's rest, going into the next hunt the next day.
To go from capturing the hunt, thinking about your edit on the way back to the lodge, and then editing that out around dinner. It's a really good edit. Yeah, for what he's like, it's a good edit.
The other aspect to it is, if you have, let's say the birds don't fly that morning, right? We still have to put an episode out,
right?
Whether we show parts of that and add in I don't know, other sponsor stuff or
something instructional, informational, product overview, something like that.
There's other stuff that we can add in, but for the most part, like we're wanting to showcase what we're doing. You know, we want to, creative tell our stories like we're average guys, just like everybody else that's going out and hunting.
And that's where we're going to go in this next. So I guess it would be called season 2 of the YouTube original series from Heartland Waterfowl, is that the goal is to not exclude what we're doing in the hunting side, because obviously, again, that's why people enjoy it, but it's more like, hey, let's show something more raw. Let's pull the curtain back and let's kind of show what does life look like on the road for Heartland Waterfowl, as opposed to just a hunt. And that's where we're going to really challenge ourselves going into this next season.
Have you ever had it where, like, you see fishermen, if they catch a big fish at, like, around here, a good spot would be Denny's Dam, and they post a picture and you can see Denny's Dam in the background, you get all these other fishermen pissed off. Have you ever had it where you hunted a public marsh, you post the video that night, and then 10 guys are there the next morning, like, or like 10 guys are pissed off at you for blowing out their spot for the next day? Like, have you ever had that kind of?
Which we went into it trying to be cognizant of that, but there's times where you make a mistake, and there's been, but it's incredible. Find people, regardless of where you hunt or where they live, somebody will find something to bitch about. And it can be the dumbest little thing.
I hate wind power.
Yeah. There was one episode we put out too, and we literally had 10 people message us. Saw you hunting there mile south of Route J this morning.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And we're not one of these guys or TV shows that puts the full wrap on our truck or the full wrap on our trailer that just basically screams, "We're Heartland Waterfowl and here we are." We actually try to be a little incognito, but but yeah, I mean, they might see a Heartland Waterfowl 3-inch sticker on our back window, or, on our, back corner of the trailer. It'll have a small little decal that says Heartland Waterfowl, and people figure it out pretty quick.
I bet. I think you guys need to do more B-roll of those reverse sear ribeye steaks, because I think that's stuff that, doing it from a skillet in a hotel room, that's money, right? That's, nobody is, like you guys have said, nobody has shown that side of things, because everybody thinks that it has to be birds exploding in the air, as opposed to showing the real life things on the road. So I'm pretty I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys are doing.
I appreciate you bringing up the reverse sear, because one, I make a mean reverse sear ribeye. I was one doing the cooking in that, so I'll take that as a compliment. One, two, it's funny how you'll hear, you rarely get the people like yourself saying right there, like, "Hey, I really enjoyed that. That was really cool." Like when you go buy a gallon of milk at the grocery store, you don't call up the grocery store and say, "This was the best gallon of milk I've ever had." But if it's sour, you're going to let them know, right? I use that as the example, is you would be surprised how many people would message us and say, and then I don't want to make it out like it's thousands of people, but a handful that would say, "Why are you making the ribeye and not making the duck that you shot or the goose that you shot?" I mean, just trying to find something to complain about, right? It's unbelievable.
Dave, I think I know where you're going.
I'm not going there.
Oh, okay.
Not going to do it.
Go for it.
No. Well, we've dealt with it.
We've
been dealing with it lately, like, and Damien and I had a couple big talks about it, where the only thing we really hear about is the negative side of it, and then a few little, but it's starting to be where more and more people are private messaging us, and they're talking about, like, "Hey man, great episode, thank you." So, like, and they'll private message us that stuff, but the people that are upset with us won't do that, and they'll post it publicly, and it's just like, okay, I get it.
It's just the times.
Yeah, it's just the times we're in, right?
Haters are gonna hate.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't exactly what I thought you were gonna hit on, Dave. When I heard a gallon of milk, I immediately thought about, back in March, we had done a show. We had the guys from First Light come up and do a snow goose hunt with us when they were trialing their new gear. And we had made the mention, and you guys would have known Logan and Ronnie from your time up in Canada, but we don't buy gallons of milk. Our milk comes in these 1 liter bags. And when we were talking to the boys from First Light, they were just like, "What? Your milk comes in a bag?"
Yeah, we buy bags of milks.
We buy bags of milk. And it became the theme for the entire weekend was like, you guys are crazy. Like, you buy bags of milk and then you had to buy a jug to put your bag of milk in. Why don't you just buy a jug of milk? Just like what we did. And it became a whole thing for the weekend.
Gotcha.
It became pretty funny. And as soon as I heard a gallon of milk, that's what I thought of.
The last time that we brought that up, the last time I brought it up with Logan, he was just like, no more. Nope, that's enough. I'm like, so I've stopped. That's why I had to, I had to think.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Boys, I don't know where we are for time because my clock is totally screwed up. So
You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Well, so what I wanted to know was, how did you get this all started? Like, did we really cover that? Like, because Damien and I are thinking about doing some filmed hunts, but nothing to the extent you guys are doing. Like, we're just going to do it on our own kind of thing. But did one of you just look at the other and be like, yeah, that was a good hunt, we should film these? Or how did that get started? And then how did it evolve into having like camera people and the production that it is now?
Well, you can actually get that entire story on episode 10 of the Papa Ron podcast. I dropped that in there.
No, go ahead,
good job,
guys.
That's
feel
a profession. That's a professional right there.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Feel free to drop whatever, right? Like,
Yep. No, but so most people know, and if they don't, we are an extension of another brand that has been very successful on the air called Heartland Bowhunter. And there are a couple of guys that Logan actually went to school with and is known since Sean, for example, is known since his childhood. And, for me, my background is in radio. I worked in radio for 22 years, 10 of it here in the Kansas City Metro. And I got to a place in my career where I felt like I'd hit my ceiling and wanted to figure out how I could parlay a lot of that media marketing sales experience into a passion, which was the outdoors and my passion for waterfowl hunting. And there's a whole long story to it, but the short of the story was I was able, through my wife's family, connect with Mike Hunsucker, who's part owner of Heartland Bowhunter, form a relationship. They found areas in which I could be of value to them from my experience working in radio to help Heartland Bowhunter. And then they had always kind of had a vision for creating an extension of their brand. And it was originally supposed to be a fishing show. But then it just made sense when they knew Logan, who cared more about waterfowl hunting, and he was already filming and had the experience. And then I had all this other kind of business experience, if you will, and had a passion for waterfowl hunting, that they brought us together. And then from there, it was like, yeah, let's give it a try. And we actually, about, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 years, we went out there and tried to do this thing. And it was, it was tough because, we're trying to figure out each other's personalities. We're figuring out how we're going to hide these cameras. Killing birds wasn't the problem. It was, how do we do it and then stay true to the Heartland Bowhunter brand? Because to be an extension of them, they were the gold standard. Like, anybody can go out and film a hunt, but now we're going to have the luxury, if you will, of being an extension of the brand, but we've also got a certain bar now that we got to reach in order to do it. So it took 2 years for us to go out there and get to know each other and film and get that experience before we even released an episode to the network. You got anything you want to add to that?
I mean, that pretty much covered it all. I mean, if you're wanting to go out and start filming hunts, just start doing it. That's the best thing I can say, is get a camera in your hand whenever you can, whether that's just messing around at home, and get good at it and just keep doing it. And
watch a lot of content too. I mean, for me anyway, it was like, okay, I watched a lot of Heartland Bowhunter, because anybody can pick up a camera and hit record and just start filming. But how are they capturing those certain shots? So to completely understand what white balance is, what your ISO is, what I'm forgetting all of them, aperture, all of the stuff, like how are they, they running a shallow depth of field, or they, just anyway, the point is that you can pick up the camera, learn the 4 basic fundamentals of the camera, watch a lot of content on how people are capturing that content. And then it kind of gets the creative juices going in your head. When you're in the field, you're like, okay, I don't want to just record this shot for the sake of recording it. How can I make it the most cinematic shot I could possibly can?
And don't be cinematography is like good photography in motion.
It is. It's 100% that.
Yeah. So I would tell you to learn photography.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that as well.
Well, I was talking to Bobby the other day, and he was geeking out on this lens, and he's like, check this out. And he's got his camera and a lens, and I'm like, yeah, nice lens. because I have no idea. And he's telling me the number. I said, Bobby, buddy, you could have made up any number and I would have been just
What
as
lens was it?
impressed.
It was I shoot Nikon, so it was the S series 85 millimeter 1.8, the prime.
Okay. Yeah. Prime lenses are
It's a
awesome.
very
And-
nice lens.
So, and then Bobby has to give me a quasi lesson on on
A little
how much
tutorial.
light, on how much light this is letting in and stuff. And it's like you guys were saying, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Mhm.
And there is so much that, listen, not taking anything away from anybody, just like you said, Logan, go out, record everything, get used to the camera and just do it. You don't have to be a master from the day you start, but there is a ton to learn if you want to put out quality.
You'd be surprised how many people started with just the camera and their cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually decent quality compared to.
You would be surprised at all the success people have on YouTube from a cell phone. It's unbelievable. It makes us think that we're doing the wrong thing sometimes.
So let me ask you this. You guys put out all high quality content.
Mhm.
I only post good photography.
Right.
Can you make yourself put a phone video up somewhere? I can't. I just can't do it.
Not for TV.
I can't
You
do it on
know?
YouTube. I just can't make myself.
It's so hard. Like
We're just not programmed like
I
that.
have a
Mhm.
problem holding a phone
I
to
do too.
myself and hitting record and then talking to the phone. Like that's just not me.
You're sitting there going, I know those videos kind of and the sound is and I have a better
I
one.
just feel so cheesy.
I know.
Well,
You know?
I mean, if we're being fair, the technology in today's cell phones
it's
have come
better.
a long, long way to where you can actually manipulate. Are you going to film this in 24 frames per second and 60 frames per second, whatever it might be, 4K? Because cell phone cameras out there can actually film in 4K now too. So and then you got the slow motion stuff that the kid, back when we first started, cell phones didn't do that. So we're just not programmed to do that. But I will also say this: like when we started, if you look at season 1 of Heartland Waterfowl and then you go and watch season 9, there is a drastic difference. And the technology that we were using then, when I say technology, the quality of the camera, has evolved, and we've graduated from a lot of what we were using back then to what we're using today as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
Your ears hurt?
No, it's like going in and out.
Oh, weird.
Awesome.
You got a short.
Yeah, I feel like I do. I'm trying to.
The other thing that you guys might be surprised about is how many people are out there that have put on a decent quality YouTube video, and because they didn't have the right, whatever you call that picture to start, or the right tags or whatever, it just didn't become popular. And there's actually some decent quality stuff out there that people might never see
Because of the thumbnail.
just
you're saying,
the thumbnail or
Yeah.
whatever it is that doesn't make it catch on, right?
You gotta play the algorithm, and that's
yeah.
the struggle for our brand, is to play the algorithm while also staying true to our brand. And that's where we struggle with the YouTube thing versus saying, what's the key lines you got to say? Like it, swipe.
Yeah, no, like
won't
it,
do
hit
it.
the notification,
Like,
bell,
subscribe,
do all that
follow.
stuff.
Smash that like button or whatever everyone says.
I will not do it.
Yeah, look, again, we could look at this a couple different ways. We can be stubborn and say, give YouTube the big middle finger and keep putting our stuff up there. But if we're going to do it, then we got to position ourselves to be successful at it. And so in order to do that, you somewhat have to play the YouTube game, but you have to figure out a way to do it that is still true to your brand. And that's where I think I'm excited about this new season that we're going to launch on YouTube, because there's going to be a little bit more of that going on. We're going to still be Heartland Waterfowl, true to who we are, but in order for us to be successful in the YouTube space, we got to play well in the sandbox. And I think we're going to do it in a way that is, unlike what you may have seen before from others.
Yeah, I was just more bringing it up so that people aren't discouraged and like, my first 5 videos didn't do well. I didn't get my 50 subscribers, right? Like when Damien and I, when we started this YouTube channel for us, like our 51st subscribers were just fake accounts that I made. So, that's just
yeah. He's joking. He's just joking.
No, I'm not.
Fellas, you know what? This is awesome, and it's been a great show. We're at that 60-minute mark at least. and probably over a little bit more, but I'd love to extend the invitation to have you guys come on again,
Yeah.
because it's some really, really great, it's a really great conversation to have with people when there's nothing to hide, and you just say it how it is, and you talk about the advantages, disadvantages, the good, the bad. And I think that's what we need more of, especially when it's coming from big brands like yourself, or big names like yourself. It gives a sense of, I don't know, it's okay.
Humility.
Yeah, it's okay. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
go for
let
it.
me just echo that, because I know we're in closing. The one thing that I will tell you that about Heartland Waterfowl is that we're never going to be that concept that says we're the experts, we're professional hunters, and this is how you should do it at home. Nobody's got a card in their wallet that says I'm a professional waterfowl hunter.
Yeah.
And just because we're on TV doesn't mean that we're professionals. It just means that we really like capturing our content, or capturing our experiences for distribution. And we always want to be authentic and be relatable to that person who is what I like to call the weekend warrior, who maybe has to scout to and from work so that they can find that field. So on that one day when the weather conditions are just perfect, he can get all of his buddies together and go have a banger hunt. That's the people that we want to relate to. Just because we do it on TV doesn't mean that this is how you should do it at home. It's just the way we do it. And there's a lot of different ways to be successful at waterfowl hunting. And obviously, depending on where you're at, it changes, right? Like how we do it in Missouri or Kansas might be different than somebody has to do it in North Dakota or Saskatchewan. And so it's a kind of a documentary to who we are as a group of men who love pursuing the migration.
Love it. Let's do a quick round the table and give some last words to you guys, and then we'll close it up. So, Bobby, I'll start with you, but I need to say thank you for getting us.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby.
Anytime.
Doing the introduction here, buddy. I really appreciate it. But let's start with you, Bobby, on any closing words.
What are we talking about?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want, buddy.
Just saying bye.
Yeah.
Promote Ducklander and
I wasn't doing anything on this one. I was just having these guys on.
Yeah, but you chimed in. So tell us give us something for Ducklander, because we have a ton of people that love Ducklander calls. You've done a couple things for us in the past. It's sold really well. So give us some Ducklander news.
Tell them about the hybrid.
That's what I say. I started, we had a new call this year, which is a big deal because I don't add models very often. So this one it's based on the little LT platform, but runs like a cut down. So it's a J frame that runs like a cut down. So if you struggle on a full size cut down, this is a little bit easier call to run, but it's got the same sound, same bark, same real raspy feed. So that's the newest thing I have out right now.
They find that on your website?
Yeah, it's on the website.
And the website is?
Ducklandercalls.com.
Okay.
Sign up for his newsletter.
Let me hold his hand and walk him through the process.
Like, follow, subscribe, comment.
Yeah. And sign up for the Ducklander Tribe newsletter too.
Yeah. More videos on social this year since they tanked the algorithm on photography. But yeah, so newsletter, if you want to know what's going on, that's a big deal for us.
Big time.
Yeah.
Logan.
I mean, we're starting to film here August 25th. We leave to go to North Dakota for their early goose season. Make sure you guys check us out on our YouTube. We'll be posting videos, content every day, live, just like we just discussed during the podcast. And then we're off and running, filming season 10. So hopefully you guys can join for the journey, and obviously stay in touch with us. Let us know how your guys' season is going up north, and look forward to seeing how you guys do.
Awesome. Dave, did I cut you off there, buddy? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to bring up that we're actually doing a new little thing called Duck University. And the first episode will actually air before this does on Monday. And Bobby's going to be doing a little bit of duck calling there tonight.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we're going to try and teach a little bit more. We kind of made that up because of, I don't know if you guys aren't following Ducklander and seeing some of the stuff that Bobby's putting out there. you got to get on it because you're going to learn so much. And we're trying to get off that a little bit and copy it for our own and
have at it.
Yeah, Bobby's one of the best on the education side and
100%.
teaching people
100%.
how to blow a call properly.
And that's why the first episode we definitely reached out to Bobby for that. So
Appreciate it.
He's 100% the best. I'll also, to echo that, when I first got into being, working with Logan and producing Heartland Waterfowl, not a great waterfowl caller, even though, a part owner and executive producer of the show. I love waterfowl hunting, but I think there's this stigma, like in order to have a TV show, then you have to be a world champion duck caller or a world champion goose caller. And that's just not who we are. We're about scouting. We're about, the experience. We're about putting ourselves on the X and telling that true, authentic experience, as I alluded to earlier. But I will say this, that brings us kind of full circle is I learned more about blowing a duck call in literally 5 minutes than I learned from anybody in my entire life that I came across in the industry. He got a way of explaining it in a dumbed down layman's terms that where the light goes up. And then, I can literally sit there in your shop and you can say, okay, instead of doing that, try this. And within seconds, oh, that's how you get that squeal, or that's how you get that rasp, whatever it might be. And Bobby is far and away the very best at, teaching the basic fundamentals of waterfowl calling.
well, and the thing that also, not to toot your horn anymore there, Bobby, but he's got a little, I don't know, is the Facebook group still running where you help people learn how to call? There was a Facebook group.
But social has changed so much. It's just nobody sees anything.
So for a little while
it's
there,
so bad right now.
Yeah. We're getting shadow banned like no other on our Instagram page.
It's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bobby had a little help calling group. I forget the name of it, but people would post up a video and there'd be no judgment. Just they'd be like, here's my calling and how can I improve? And I'm like, man, without being near somebody, how do you? And then all of a sudden Bobby's posting a video response like, oh, here, this is, hopefully this helps you. Here's what you're doing. And this is how you can improve. Right. And man, that props to you for being able to do that and taking the time, especially like for a little while there, it was like a new video every couple hours, it seemed. So good for you.
Like I said, just nobody sees anything anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And I am just not a lover of reels yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I do on one to add any sort of just good value in the waterfowl community.
But regardless of where you can get that content, the thing I will also say that Bobby's really good at is like he's really good about responding to people on Facebook Messenger. Yeah. And so even if you, and I might be putting you out there, but even if you like reached out to him directly with a video of you blowing, the judgment goes to the side. And that's the other thing I hate about the waterfowl industry, that there's so much judgment. Like, how many, I killed this many ducks this year. I'm the world champion. I, took second at nationals, whatever. No, I don't give a shit about any of it. Right. Should be about community. It should be about all of us working together instead against one another. And that's where Bobby has got the same mindset. And I think that if you reached out to him directly and said, hey, what do you think about this? He could help you out. He puts together calling classes here locally, and you can show up. It don't matter if you're blowing a ducklander call or something else. Mm-hmm. He wants to make sure that you have the best experience you possibly can to feel good about what you're out there trying to do.
Wow. I want people to hunt better. If they're not killing anything, they're not going to keep buying a license. Mm-hmm. And that's not good for anybody.
That's true.
Yeah. So a little bit of selfishness. I try to keep the license pool bigger, or I can't survive.
It all comes back to humility. Yeah. It really does.
Well, late to the millions and millions of listeners that we have of this show.
Wow, good job. Show me how you're doing it. I just started a podcast. I need to figure that out.
If you've gotten through 60 minutes of us talking directly Heartland Waterfowl, the last 5 minutes, we've really pumped Bobby's tires up here. We can't say it enough because Bobby's been such a big supporter of us over the last couple of years. So obviously we're big fans and we want to push more people to him. But don't just take our word for it. Just go check them out. And I promise you will be impressed and you'll be happy. And you'll find that everything that's being said here about Ducklander calls of Bobby Hayes is 100%
that's
correct.
Why we're partnered with him.
Yeah, that's right. Ronnie, last word to you, buddy. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, Logan pretty much covered it, but we were on, all the social platforms. We haven't done the TikTok thing yet. I'm challenging the Alex who runs our social media to get that started, which is just one more thing that we got to, pay attention to. But obviously we're on Sportsman's Channel. We air 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year on Sportsman's Channel in the States. I don't know how many of the people who listen to this podcast are from Canada or in the States, but we are also, as I mentioned earlier, with distribution on Sportsman's Channel in Canada. But of course, the big thing is also the YouTube and what we started last year and how it's going to evolve going into this next season. So, follow us on Instagram, Facebook. It's easy to find us, Heartland Waterfowl, YouTube. And like we said, give us a subscribe and hit that notifications bell so that you can be alerted whenever we put up new content.
Awesome. Dave, to you, buddy.
Yeah, boys, thanks a lot for coming on. It's good to talk to I'm getting excited for season, and this just amps that up. So thanks, boys.
Let's do it again.
I 100%
agree.
Yep.
When your internet's working a little better, Damien.
Well, it's kind of one of those things where it's like we could probably talk for another 3 hours, but Damien's like, nope, 60 minutes. That's the limit. So
that's where I fail on podcasts. I've got some 3-hour podcasts up there. So.
Well, I want to save it, right? Because it's all about getting you guys back. So if you've got a message that you haven't gotten out yet, I can cut it off now. And then when I go to invite you back, you're like, oh yeah, I got to come back because I wanted to talk about this. So there's a method to my madness.
Can Ronnie plug his podcast real quick?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely can.
Well, it's not
don't mind, right?
I'm happy to. It's not a hunting podcast, although there are episodes where we do talk about hunting. But it's more of it's been described by some friends as a humanity podcast. So we talk about discuss a wide variety of life experiences, military veterans who are suffering from PTSD to people
right here, bud.
Really? There you go. Yeah. You're going to find some pretty great content in there with others that are going through that and what they're doing to combat that. Also people who are dealing with mental illness, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, to human trafficking, to a family who had a teenage daughter back in 2007 who was abducted and raped and murdered, and the experiences that they went through with that and how they're turning that into a positive with starting a foundation, an effort to get legislation passed to help people who ever abducted with having cell phone towers ping cell phones to find the whereabouts of those people and getting that passed in all 50 states. So it's a wide, a wide variety of different topics, best explained as a kind of a humanity podcast where we really dive in deep into the trenches, pull back the curtain, get below the surface and talk about real life shit.
So give the name and where people can listen to it.
So you can find it on nearly all of your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube. It's a video podcast called the Papa Ron Podcast. My nickname is Papa Ron with the Heartland Waterfowl crew because I'm far and away the oldest guy on the team. So it's a crack at my age. The Papa Ron Podcast, you can find it on Spotify, video versions on Spotify and YouTube. And then you can also get the audio versions on Apple, Amazon, Google, and CastBox.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 106 of the Union 0430. Like we always say, we are as advertised. We'll never pretend to be somebody that we're not. We are honest to God, a group of friends that love hanging out and just talking about hunting ducks and geese. Until next time, check out the Papa Ron podcast. Check out Heartland Waterfowl. I promise you're in for some good content. And hey, ring the bell on subscribing to us too. There you go. That's a new one for you, boys. Ring the bell.
Ding, ding.
Ding, there it is. This is episode 106. Big love, everybody. Until next episode. Ciao.